video seemed to go over rather well. Anybody fancy a part 2? Well, you're getting it anyway. Here's 5 more terrible Formula 1 circuits. Also, there's been a lot of new people subscribing to the channel recently, so I just want to say, welcome! Thank you for thinking that my ramblings about Formula 1 are worth sticking around for. Anyway, we're starting off strong here at Valencia, which was designed by Herman Tilke, a man who... This is not the last time his name will come up in this video. This circuit was first rocked up to back in 2008 as the new home for the European Grand Prix, and this was the track that they got met with, located around the harbour in Valencia in Spain. And the best way I can describe this circuit is a mess of corners with a long straight that isn't quite straight between turns 10 and 12, a bit of a smaller straight that isn't also quite straight between turns 14 and 17, and then more corners, some more nothingy than others. To me, with this circuit, it seems like they were trying to imitate Monaco, but it didn't quite work out. Looks wise, the look around the track, well, it definitely wasn't the worst, but it wasn't the best. And racing action wise, dull as hell. Overtaking was not the easiest here, due to the nature of the way the track was, and that doesn't make for a great watch. DRS being brought in 2011 did help things out in the overtaking department, but all I'm saying is that when 22 of the 27 overtakes in a race happen because of DRS, the circuit very clearly has a problem with overtaking chances prior to it. I do hate to say though, the 2012 European Grand Prix is worth a watch. It's on F1 TV if you have a subscription to that. But despite the 2012 race of Valencia being by far the best of the lot that was held there, not exactly very stiff competition there though, it was the last time F1 would race there. From 2013 onwards, Valencia and Barcelona were due to share the Spanish Grand Prix year on year, but that didn't come to anything. The circuit closed and it has been abandoned ever since. Next, Abu Dhabi. Old Abu Dhabi, that is. 2009 to 2020 Yas Marina. Honestly, the track that we've had since the changes in 2021, I actually don't mind as much. Old Yas Marina, however... yeesh. This is another Tilke track, which was first visited in 2009 as the season finale, and it still is the season finale. I believe it pays a lot to be the season finale. But this is the circuit configuration that we're speaking about here, the one which was there between 2009 when it first opened and 2020. A 90-degree left, a couple of sweeping corners followed by a fiddly chicane and a tight hairpin before 12 length straights separated by a chicane and followed by a triple chicane and then basically all 90-degree-ish turns, except for a couple of sweeping corners. And just for comparison, this is the track then to the track now. But the original layout I just described. Overtakes / racing action, that was the problem we hear. It should be said that Tilke, when designing this track, had to work around limitations, such as the harbour and the hotel. He had to work with what he had, and... well, what he had was a man-made island with a harbour and a big-ass hotel, and he had to work around those things. With that being said, however, the original layout of Abu Dhabi could not deliver. Overtaking just was not very easy, which was evident in 2010 when Fernando Alonso could not find a wide pass Vitaly Petrov, and that ultimately cost him the championship. DRS being introduced in 2011 did help a bit, with DRS being active doing the 12 back straights, you can make passes there, but of course that does kind of lead to potential for a just pass and repass situation. You can pass down one straight, you can DRS down the next and repass. And you could overtake on that old circuit configuration. I mean, just look at Vettel in 2012 going for the pit lane to P3, but with the way the track was before, the hard clunky 90-degree turns in the last sector, the fiddly chicane and tight hairpin before the first back straight especially, it did not make for a great track for racing. But honestly, it has to be said, kudos to the circuit people for actually listening to Albany's complaints about the original layout and making changes to it to now be the circuit we can know today. For our next track, the Sochi Autodrom, another Herman Tilke design. F1 rocked up to Sochi in September 2014 to this circuit. 19 corners around the hem of the 2014 Winter Olympics, made up of a couple of long straights, a long left-hander, and then some 90-degree-ish turns, some of which, like the last sector for example, being clunkier than others. And damn all elevation change, which was one of the gripes with this track. But this one kind of continues the theme of the last couple in that it just didn't provide in terms of good races. Unlike the last two, while you can overtake here at turns 1, 3, 14, if you can get the run, it could provide its moments. Overall, Sochi, of all the tracks Herman Tilke has designed in his career, this is one of the misses. Even though the last race here in 2021 actually wasn't all that bad. What with the championship the way it was, big names starting at the back and having to come through, the weather at the end, the train it had for not providing the racing action made it one of the more hated tracks on the calendar when it was on the calendar, and it just could not win over us fans. And in fact, the Russian Grand Prix was slated to move away from Sochi to Agora Drive from 2023, much to the delight of many of us, I think, if I remember correctly. Of course, we never actually got to see F1 race at Agora Drive because the entire race got cancelled for obvious reasons, but anyway. But the Russian Grand Prix getting completely cancelled aside, the writing was on the wall for Sochi anyway, after several years of it just not being able to provide races that could win over the fans, Mercedes domination there every year to end up with. It just wasn't a track that could provide good racing action, and honestly, I'm gonna be honest, if you're a Lando Norris fan, I'm willing to bet you'd rather forget Sochi exists. I kinda help but feel like in my mind, this Nice one may not be as popular of an opinion of a bad track. However, the 2015 to present day iteration of the Circuit Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico is where we're heading to now. This track has been raced at in slightly different configurations across the decades of Formula 1. But when the circuits returned to Mexico City in 2015, this is the circuit they got met with. 12 length straights with chicane in the middle, a fiddly hairpin area, some sweeping corners and another period straight, before a fiddly little run through the stadium section, and then the final corner. And just for comparison, this is the previous 12 iterations of this circuit. And yes, this is another one where Herman Tilke had responsibility as the renovations of this track were done under his direction. But the reason why I've put Mexico on this list, it just doesn't give in terms of the racing action. Turn 1 can provide some good overtaking chances, what with turn 1 being a heavy braking zone after a long straight, but while it can give some good chances, along with it also being a DRS straight, it can also just give us DRS passes with the car without DRS not really being able to defend. I'm fairly sure the altitude does not help at all either, but the biggest complaint here for me is the fiddly stadium section and the run out to it. It's a great place to see the cars up close, I get it, but it's such a cumbersome and fiddly peery section, and it kind of just breaks up the flow a bit of the circuit. And it's that section that it can dictate if you can make a move into turn 1 or not. You know, if you've done get a good run through there and at the last corner. Yes, there's DRS on the main straight, but if your run out the stadium section and the final corner is bad, you're gonna fin yourself too far back to make a move, and after turns 1, 2, and 3, well, unless you can get a good run out of turn 3 into turn 4, then you're waiting until turn 1 again. Overall, this circuit just is not one that provides great races, which is why I included it as a bad track. The atmosphere is great. Do not get me wrong, that cannot be denied, but in terms of the actual racing side of things, it just isn't great, and I'm gonna be honest, I could very well see this track falling off the calendar once Perez leaves Formula 1. You know, now watch the Mexico City Grand Prix be a banger of a race this year, now I've included it on this list. And finally, as much as I debated whether to include this track on the list, and it definitely wasn't as bad as some of the other tracks I've mentioned in this video and the last one, I'd say this is probably the best of the worst. Paul Ricard. For once, not one Herman Tilke is responsible for. This track when F1 was there between 2018 and 2022 is one I'm focusing on here, and this is it. 12 sweeping corners, then a period run to turns 3 through Siefen, after which you hit a line straight with a chicane in the middle, which was the best overtaking chance on this track, followed by the sweeping turns 10 in the Liefen, which were in my opinion the best corners on the track, and then you've got the last 4 fiddly turns. As I just indicated towards in saying that the Mistral chicane was the best overtaking chance on this track, we're still speaking about racing action not being great with the track layout we were given. And Paul Ricard has a lot of different track layout options. Just look at the track, there's so many options you could have, but the one that we got given wasn't the best. Again, this is another case of you could overtake, but while you could overtake and you could come through to the back, as demonstrated in 2018 by Vettel after he fell to the back, and Sainz in 2022 when he started to the back, it still just provided pretty unforgettable races. It had its memorable moments, sure, take the race win coming down to the closing laps in 2021, or Leclerc's crash in 2022, or the opening corner chaos in 2018, but generally the French Grand Prix at Paul Ricard was typically seen as a bit of a snooze fest. The circuit also wasn't one of the more better located ones, which didn't exactly help anything. F1 last raced here in 2022, after which the contract for the track was not renewed, and we're yet to see the French Grand Prix return. I will just mention, by the way, Herman Tilke has come up quite a bit in this video. I really did not mean for this to become a bashing Herman Tilke Silkits video, by the way. While he has had some misses in terms of track design, it does have to be said he has also designed some brilliant circuits. I mean, he is the man responsible for giving us Sepang, Bahrain, Shanghai, Istanbul. He had a hand in Kota, and that's just to name a few. All of which are really good tracks, so I just wanted to mention it that while we've covered a few of his not so good tracks today, he's got some good ones. You know, maybe that could be a video. The best circuits designed by Herman Tilke? What do you think are some of the worst tracks F1 has been to? Let me get your thoughts down in the comments below. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.